You talk about the impact of racializing everything, and it's becoming quite obvious, I think, now to anyone who is an independent observer that if you racialize these different conversations, you inevitably end up creating racism against groups which, for one reason or another, do better in certain circumstances. Suddenly, people are again, as a Jew, for example, people are going, "Oh, why are the Jews so successful? Why are the Asian Americans so successful? Why do Chinese kids do better at school? In our country, in the UK here, why is it that white working class boys don't do so well in education?" And suddenly, everything is about race. And suddenly you're going, why is that group doing better than that group? And inevitably, everybody finds themselves in a position where they are either the oppressor or the oppressed one way or another. And we're just stuck in this crazy way. And I think maybe that awareness that suddenly every group is being looked at as a potential victim or a potential victimizer might make some people wake up to this. Do you think that that's a possibility?
I don't know. Here's what I think. I think there's a contradiction at the heart of the identitarian argument for group equality. The identitarian argument for group equality is we have these different groups. We have Jews, we have South Asians, we have East Asians, we have Blacks, we have Latinos, whatever. And they have identities, and the identities deserve to be respected. Someone tells me I identify as an African American, and that's a part of their personhood, and it warrants to be respected, taken on board, given credence. So groups matter in the identitarian view of the world. It's not a matter of indifference. It's not like we're all a part of the human family. We are in these various little boxes. Groups matter. Groupness matters. My Black culture and heritage matters to me. The music that I listen to, the food that I eat, the literature that I read, the stories I tell my children. That's important. Groups matter. So there's groupness. On the other hand, we think there's supposed to be equality of groups across every human enterprise. But how can that be? Because if groups matter, some people are going to bounce a basketball 100,000 times a month, and other people are going to bounce it 10,000 times a month. Some people are going to be drawn to the book as a way of experiencing human culture, and other people are going to be more verbal or more spontaneous or whatever it might be. There are differences between groups. Groups matters, after all. They're not all the same. They don't read the same things. They don't believe the same things. They don't do the same things with their time. So now I've got population groups that matter. Groups are different. Groups have their own integrity. They express it in the way in which they live their lives. That's going to result in a different representation of group members across various human activities. They're not all going to be in the academy to the same extent. They're not all going to be in sports to the same extent. They're not all going to do the same occupations. They're not all going to have the same professional profile. Now I look out at society and I see a difference between groups in the proportion who are, members of the National Academy of Sciences, tenured faculty members at Harvard University, tech entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, hedge fund managers, traders on the floor of the stock exchange, et cetera. I see differences in the proportion who are getting PhDs in American or British English literature, who et cetera. Groups mattered, after all. The groupness, the Jewishness, the Blackness reflected itself to some degree in how people spent their time and therefore in what it is that they're doing. And yet I insist that the society is unfair unless I get an equal proportionate representation of these groups in every human enterprise. That's a contradiction. And it's a contradiction that's only going to lead to tyranny and racism.
You would make a progressive person or progressive-minded person so incredibly uncomfortable by what you're saying right now, because what I think at the heart of what you're saying is equality between groups is never going to be possible.
That is what I'm saying, if we think groups matter and we respect the differences between them. Now, we can blend it all together. We can say you can't teach your kid like that. You can't send them to the private school over here. You can't spend more time on this. Everybody has to be the same. We can flatten all of the cultural and behavioral distinctions that are the actual substance of groupness and put everybody into one social milieu and then imagine that we're going to have equality. But that would be tyrannical. That would be overriding people's autonomy as individual human beings to associate with each other and to believe what they please. We're going to end up with the question, how come there are so many Jews who are getting PhDs in electrical engineering? How come there's so many Asians who are doing this or doing that? That's ultimately where the question leads, the presumption of group equality in the face of group distinctions of social organization and culture leads either to the tyrannical imposition of standards which attempt to tamp down the authentic expression of groupness, or to a finger-pointing suspicion every time we see somebody pop their head up above the level zone as to wondering if the blacks are underrepresented and the Jews are overrepresented, well, why is that? There must be some intrinsic unfairness that's built into the system. And that is a problem.